Good morning. Hey, this is Walt Wilkins. How are you doing? I'm here with Deputy Solicitor Betty Strom, and we wanted to sit down a little bit and talk with you about what the prosecutor's office does. What's the role of the solicitor in Greenville and Pickens counties? And I've talked to a lot of folks in the community, and a lot of people don't really understand what we do on a daily basis or kind of what goes on inside the office every day. And everyone knows it's probably a busy office, but you never know what's going on the inside and the types of cases that we handle. So we just want to explain a little bit, what our office does and what it looks like. So our community partners and everyone out there knows what's going on. So I'm Walt Wilkins again. I'm the solicitor, and this is Betty Strom, deputy solicitor, and she helps me a lot helping run this office. So a brief overview of the office is we're the largest office in the state. So we cover Greenville and Pickens counties, and what we do really is we prosecute all the cases that are brought to us by law enforcement every single day. And with that, we cover a lot of different themes, a lot of different areas, unfortunately and fortunately sometimes. And with 50 lawyers working in this office, prosecuting all these cases, over 130 members assisting and supporting us, and then of course working along with all the law enforcement agencies in Greenville and Pickens counties. So it's extremely busy. So Betty, what are we seeing as far as the docket is concerned, and how many cases are coming in every single day? Because with 50 lawyers and they're very busy, that's a lot of work.
It is. I mean, we have approximately 15,000 warrants coming in Greenville, approximately 3,500 to 4,500 coming in every year in Pickens, and that's a range from petty theft to murder cases. So it could be anything from a car getting broken into to drugs to murders to anything. And the assistant solicitors handle about 300, anywhere from 300 to 500 warrants each. So they have a pretty tough job.
Yeah, I'll say. I mean, that's a lot of cases for one person to handle. They're working very, very diligently each day as they come in. And so when a case comes in, sort of what happens to it? So law enforcement brings us a warrant. Somebody's, been arrested based on probable cause, and so it sits in our office now. So now we have to do something with it, right?
We do. And it is a process on each case, and each case is different as to how you handle it. But the lawyer will get all the information, all the reports, all the witness statements and everything, and review that case to determine what's the best resolution, what's the best outcome for this case. And then they will begin plea negotiations with the defense lawyer, obviously talking with any victims that may be involved in the case and getting their input, getting the input from law enforcement, and then you can put the case in some type of diversion program if you think that's appropriate, or you work out a guilty plea. Or if you have to, you go to trial and you try it.
Yep. Alicia Como is saying hello.
Hello. I'm glad to have you watching. And, so if there's anybody that has any questions about, how things operate inside the office, it's a vast office, and there are many themes and things that we can talk about. We're really just trying to give an overview of the office. And I know, Betty, we deal with a lot of serious cases. Betty and I typically are on cases that when we go to trial, they last, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12 days, depending on the complexity of the case, and all the way down to very simple cases where a trial could take one day or less sometimes, depending on the complexity. So what types of cases are we seeing coming in, Betty, on a regular basis? What's our bread and butter?
Whew.
It's a lot, isn't it?
And I would sit here and say I think Greenville County would be surprised at what comes through our office. But we have everything from drug cases to criminal sexual conduct cases on children to all types of assaults, robberies, auto breakings. I mean, you name it, Greenville County, Pickens County has it.
And that's pretty normal. From my perspective, I think the view of Greenville and Pickens County is a very safe place to be.
Oh, it is.
And and so our goal is to keep the general public from having to deal with these kind of things. We're the ones who deal with it on a daily basis, and we're out there trying to make sure, along with law enforcement as well, to make sure that everybody goes to work, church, and play without having any problems. I tell you, one thing that I spend not a lot of time on, but working on, are the effect of illegal drugs and alcohol on our communities and our societies, and I talk about it a lot. I know we receive thousands of warrants related to drugs as well, and a lot of the cases that aren't drug charges have some nexus to drugs oftentimes, where people are trying to buy drugs, or they may be on drugs at the time they commit a crime, or they're committing a crime because they need money because of their addiction as well. But I think we're seeing an impact pretty decent on the substance abuse issue, and I think it's something we deal with a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
And explain, what's the percentage of these that are solved within a year, these cases?
So one of the main goals of Betty and I are that justice delayed is justice denied. So we want to certainly move these cases as quickly as possible. But in the legal world, there's legal issues, there's constitutional issues. It's an adversarial system in that when someone is charged with a crime, they are not presumed guilty; they are presumed innocent. And it's our job to prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt. We have to meet that burden in every single case. But fortunately, we have fantastic employees, good lawyers, great investigators, and wonderful law enforcement helping us do that. So we're resolving over 80% of our cases are less than a year old or a year or less old, which statistically speaking, if you compare it to around the state and around the state and other states, that's extremely well based on the resources that we have. Now, some cases take a little longer because they're complex. They have a lot of legal issues related to them, or the facts are difficult. And many cases require expert testimony. And that's where things get slowed down, when experts have to come in and be able to tell a jury about a specific issue or something that only someone who has special training in an area. And of course, that takes time and energy to get that to trial as well. And there's only so much court in the year that we have access to, and so that can slow it down. So we're all fighting for court time, aren't we?
Yep.
Say again how many cases you have, because many people believe the solicitor's office just kind of does a case here and there, but you guys are always busy.
Oh yes, I mean we get in over approximately 15,000 warrants every year in Greenville, and like I said, anywhere from 3,500 to 4,500 in Pickens. Now, that you can pretty much figure that 2 warrants are going to go to 1 defendant. So that's not 15,000 people that we are dealing with, but it's about 7,500 people in Greenville and about 1,500 people, a little more than that, 2,000 in Pickens.
It's a large docket.
It is. It's a very large docket.
It's the largest docket in the state, and with our staff of 50 lawyers, we're able to maintain it and keep it current, which is fantastic. So it's a daily grind. It's a daily work. Keep pushing these cases through. But again, we still have to meet our burden in every single case, and so we have to deal with those, as well as other issues of training. We assist in training law enforcement a lot, making sure everyone understands the law. The law changes from what we get out of the legislature every single year. For example, we have a new expungement law. So the legislature has expanded expungements, and so we handle the expungements of folks that want to clean up their record after they've done certain things, so that they're allowed to do that, and we have to process all that and help them do that. So that's just another duty, as well as run a lot of diversion programs as well, on top of prosecuting all these cases and dealing with safety and security as well. And we also oversee and assist SLED when they do an investigation on say, officer-involved shootings. That's a whole nother area that we have policies relating to that, where SLED investigates those typically. And then we will advise them as needed, as we can. And then if they make charges, we prosecute them. If they don't, then it goes out the right way. So we entertain a lot of themes. We have to know a lot of information about a lot of things on a daily basis. So we have to stay trained up as well.
Have a lot of programs too.
We do, and also we are in charge of prosecuting the juveniles down in family court. We also have lawyers in what's called the magistrate's court, which is a lower level court. So it's a myriad of things that we deal with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we and then run all the diversion programs that we have like drug court, veterans court, mental health court, New Start, worthless check program. So it's a robust office, depending on where the issue falls. I think we have something that can assist in taking on that. And so a lot of what Betty and I do is we look at the problem in the community, and maybe it's domestic violence. And certainly South Carolina is not faring well statistically in domestic violence. It's a common statistic that's espoused by a lot of people. And so we say, how are we going to tackle domestic violence? So we tackle it from a theoretical and a philosophical, and then we implement policies. A domestic violence court is something that we implemented a couple years ago to try to help reduce the amount of domestic violence that's out there. So we work with our partners in the community as well as inside the criminal justice system, so that when someone is charged with a domestic violence program, the goal is to make them stop. And we don't want them to do it anymore, but it's also there to empower the victim so that they have options to not stay in an abusive relationship, which does occur. And so we tackle those problems through a bunch of different ways that we can, and we put the resources into it to make sure that we're reducing that number.
You guys are a pretty good team.
Well, it's all Betty Strom, I tell you. She's so I know, Betty, I want to ask you, you've tried a lot of cases. Betty's tried lots of cases. Is there one in particular that now, are we Law and Order? I mean, we're like Matlock in there. I mean, do we ever have a Matlock moment in the courtroom where the music in the background goes dun dun dun, and, those kind of things?
I can't say that I've ever had a Matlock moment. And I do. When I speak to a jury, I try to tell them that it's not like you see it on TV, that it is a very sometimes boring process, but it's necessary for what we need to do. So, but trying cases is fun. It's fun.
That's what we say. The hard work's up to the trial. Trying the cases is where we actually get to enjoy it. And if you enjoy the courtroom, this is a great job to have as a lawyer, because you get to use your trial skills inside the courtroom, and it's a lot of fun trying these cases every single day. And unfortunately, when we're in trial, I often say there's really no winners at the end of the day. And our job is not to win; it's not to lose. Our job is to prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt under the law, so that we can get justice, hopefully, for a victim, if there is a victim. But it's to protect the public through the laws and present our case to a jury, whether we can prove someone has actually committed the crime or not. And that's what we do on a regular basis. Sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's exciting. It just depends. But I will say, everyone who works here is a true public servant. They're passionate about this work, and it really does take a true public servant to give their skills and their professional lifetime to committing to this type of work, and so that Greenville and Pickens can stay safe, and we can all prosper.
There you have it. Good group of people working for the solicitor's office, working for you, basically.
Absolutely.
We really do, and the attorneys are the ones who get all the glory, but it's the investigators, it's the secretaries, it's the victim advocates, it's the interns who take our deliveries over to the law enforcement center. They are very committed to doing a good job, and we couldn't do our job if it weren't for them.
Absolutely.
They make us look good.
They do.